Hello again, and welcome to the Roy Williams Show. We'll be talking Carolina basketball for the next hour or so with the head coach of the Tar Heels, Roy Williams. We'll look back over the 2-0 week for Carolina with wins at home over Northeastern and Louisville. We'll take some of your questions for the head coach of the Tar Heels. You're going to hear some of an interview Adam Lucas and I had with Tyler Hansbrough. So all kinds of good stuff coming up over the next 60 minutes. And, Coach, successful week for your team. 2 games, 2 home games, which was nice to be in Chapel Hill, and most importantly, 2 victories. One over Northeastern on Wednesday, and then really impressive victory against a good Louisville team on Saturday evening.
Yeah, Jones, you're exactly right. It's a good week when you can win 2 games. I don't care where you are, who you're playing, or anything, but started out with Northeastern, and you have to say thank you to Clint Gwaltney, our assistant AD, that helps me with the basketball scheduling. When I say helps me, that means I tell him 1 or 2 things, and then he makes 100 phone calls. But he really did a great job getting us a game. We wanted a game. The kids want to play games, and we played well at times in the Northeastern game. Came through with the win, and then played great on Saturday against a Louisville team that has been good this year, but they've been really hit hard by the coronavirus. They've only had 8 practices in 19 days and no games.
Yeah.
So we caught them at a good time. But we played well, and I was pleased with the way we played and the things we did, and pleased at some part in both games.
Coach, I was going to say, I think everyone understood Louisville was in a difficult situation, and yet your team still had to go out and do what it did, and that's shoot 61%. Shared the ball, played good defense. The final score seemed to reflect that quality of play from your team.
Well, it did, and it also it got worse and worse at the end for Louisville. And, you know, you've heard me say this 100 times. I hardly ever look at the score.
Right.
I look at the time left right up above the backboard, and all of a sudden I look up, and that score was really surprised. I knew we were playing well. I knew we had a 19-point lead at half because I always check. And then we played terribly the first 4 minutes of the second half, had 5 bad box outs and 5 turnovers. And then I think after that we were really good, shared the ball well, got a lot of layups on the break, got some high-low looks that I think are good for us, and all of a sudden the score got out of hand. But I do believe that we really did some good things that I was pleased with. And, again, I'll say even in both games, but yet in coaching, it's hard to even remember 2 games ago. You can barely remember what happened the last game because you're focused on the next one.
A lot of good numbers that the Tar Heels traditionally like in that game against Louisville. 58-32 points in the paint. 26-12 off turnovers, 26-11 on fast break. A lot of good numbers there for Carolina. Coach, the game was tied at 18, about 10 minutes into the game or so. Carolina outscored Louisville the rest of the way, 30-11. All 30 of those points were scored by freshmen on your team.
Yeah, it was a heck of a time period there. I mean, Kerwin got it started making the threes. Dayron was making baskets inside, and so that was big time for us, to say the least there. But I think Kerwin making, if I'm not mistaken, he made like 3 threes in a 5-minute stretch there, and that was huge for us, and we were getting some stops on the other end. And it was, as I walked off the court at halftime, I even forgot to look up at the score and turn around and ask Eric Cooch what the score was as I was standing in the tunnel. And so it was something that driven by the freshmen, and that's okay with me. As long as they're wearing a North Carolina uniform, during the game, I'm not concerned about what class they are.
Career high for Kerwin Walton, 19 points, including 5 of 7 in total from three-point range. Dayron Sharp, Coach mentioned, 21 points and 11 rebounds in just 17 minutes for Dayron in the game. So incredibly efficient time for Dayron on the floor. And, Coach, he was one of course, your 4 big guys. 7 assists and just 1 turnover from those 4 big guys. It felt like a lot of those assists were going from big to big, high post to low post.
And that's something we work on. And with Dayron, to be honest about it, too, I wasn't sure how well he'd played because 2 days before he hurt his foot. It bothered him in the Northeastern game. We held him out of most of practice on Thursday, and then we're waiting to see what he could do on Friday, and it felt much better on Friday. Doug Halverson, our trainer, did a great job with him, and so he felt great. But I tried to make sure that I wasn't keeping him on the court in too long a period of time to let him get fatigued a little bit, because I think when people get fatigued, they start their running mechanics, jumping mechanics, everything suffer. But, no, that was a tremendously impressive line for 17 minutes.
And, Coach, in the 2 games, Northeastern and Louisville, your bench outscored the opposition bench a total 85-30 in those two games. Felt like you were getting a lot of contributions from guys coming into the game.
Well, we have all year long, but we really pushed that because when we played Virginia, which wasn't that long ago, last year in 2 games, their bench outscored our bench 47-10. And so we brought that up to them that you've got to add something. It doesn't have to be scoring. It could be rebounding, defensively passing the ball or something. And but since that time, and we did okay off the bench as far as coming close to what Virginia did, but we played so poorly, everybody that got out there. But since then, our bench has really given us what they've given us a lot throughout the course of the season.
We've still got a lot to do on the show. We will take a quick look at that Northeastern game, but as Coach mentioned, it was a while ago. Tar Heels have played again since then, but we'll take one quick look at that one. Plus, we're going to start getting to your questions for the head coach of the Tar Heels and a lot more. Plus, as I mentioned, we have a really fun interview with Tyler Hansbrough that I think you will enjoy. That's all coming up on the show as well. But let's take a break. It is the Roy Williams Show from Learfield, IMG College. Well, it has been a struggle, not just for Carolina. It's been a struggle for many teams across the country this year as far as keeping that schedule as consistent as possible. And the Tar Heels, after losing some games to postponements, were able to find an opponent in the midweek. Coach mentioned how much hard work Clint Gwaltney and others put in to make this happen for Carolina. That turned into a matchup with Northeastern, which was an 82-62 Tar Heel victory. Coach, you've been adamant you want to play at home, and you found a quality opponent in Northeastern who was willing and able to come give you guys a good matchup this past week.
Yeah, we were not looking for anybody. It's 353 teams. We weren't looking for the people into 300. We wanted good. Northeastern's leading their league. They're in first place in their league. A good team, good coach. Billy Cohen was at Boston College when Al Skinner was there. So we were looking for anybody that wanted to play, but we really preferred a good basketball team. And as I said, they were in first place in their league, and it worked out great for us.
Coach, they had an impressive individual performance. Tyson Walker, 23 points at halftime. He finished with 27. That tells you that Tar Heels able to slow him a little bit in the second half.
Well, I don't know if we slowed him down or if he was just so tired of watching the ball going in the basket, but he dominated the first half. We knew he was really good. Coach Frederick told me he's Chris like, and that's scary because I've always had so much respect for Chris. But it was we did a little bit better job on him in the second half, stayed in front of him a little bit better, and he got worn down because he was trying to do so much because he was basically their offense for a big portion of that game.
Caleb Love had 2 early turnovers in this game and then didn't have another, finished with 9 assists and 2 turnovers. He did have a negative assist-to-turnover ratio against Louisville, but a bunch of those turnovers came in a really short amount of time in that second game. Seemed like he did a nice job this week running your team.
Well, he did, except for the 4-minute stretch in the second half of the Louisville game. He had all 4 turnovers. Yeah. But against Northeastern, he was sensational. I mean, I'm talking sensational. If Garrison Brooks, Armando, Dayron, and Walker and those guys would finish the dadgum play, he had 9 assists. And he had 5 other passes that our guy missed the shot and got fouled or just missed it, and it was point-blank range. I mean, they got to do their job. I mean, because he's standing there looking at 14 assists during the course of a game. For a freshman's off the charts, the way we score it, because we give him an assist not only if the guy gets fouled or even if he misses a shot, but just for throwing the ball inside. Yep. And he was 19 and a half.
Wow.
19 and a half assists, which we haven't had that in a couple of years.
And that speaks to something you have spoken to a lot about this year, the fact that he had not really ever been asked to run a team as the point guard, but continuing to improve in that area.
No question. He's gotten better and better, and just a little bit of time. We'd like for it to be huge jumps, but that's not what it is, but I want him to get better every day.
Okay, we still have a lot to do with Coach. We're going to start getting to your questions for the head coach of the Tar Heels when we return. We'll talk a little bit about Carolina adding another game as well. This time it is against Marquette. Steve Wojciechowski, former Duke player, Duke coach, is the head coach of Marquette. Tar Heels will host the Golden Eagles this upcoming week. We'll talk about that and a lot more as we move through the show. It's the Roy Williams Show from Learfield, IMG College. Welcome back to the show, and we're going to start getting to some questions for the head coach of the Tar Heels. A reminder that you can send those in throughout the week. We're having to do the show a little differently this year. Normally, we're at Top of the Hill on Monday nights and joined by a bunch of great Tar Heel fans. Unfortunately, with COVID, can't be there in person this year, so we are recording a little earlier in the day on Monday for air Monday night. you are welcome to send in questions, and we've gotten a bunch. We really appreciate you guys being a part of the show, and you can keep sending those in. AskTheHeels@gmail.com is the email address. AskTheHeels@gmail.com, or shoot me a tweet. It's at Jones Angel. Angel has 2 L's at the end. Coach wanted to talk about the Marquette game later in the show, but had a question kind of surrounding Marquette, and it came from Twitter, Countess of UNC. She says she knows it was before you started here, but do you remember the 77 championship game for Carolina against Marquette, and any memories or recollections you might have from that particular game?
No question about it. I know exactly where I was sitting in the first place that Wanda and I lived in the mountains when I was coaching high school, and saw that loss in the national championship game. Just ripped my heart out kind of thing. But Coach McGuire was always great to me, a friend, a guy that I really appreciated, tried to give me some advice early on in my career. Bo Ellis, Butch, Butch, the point guard for Marquette. I'll think about it before. Butch Lee.
Yep.
Butch Lee, Bo Ellis, all those guys were sensational, and we didn't make a couple of plays down the stretch, and they did, and it was a great victory in Coach McGuire's last game as a coach. He had announced his retirement, so I remember everything about it.
Certainly, and it's funny, Coach, that one, even that still kind of stands as one of the more difficult losses for Carolina in Tar Heel basketball history. Just so close. That team had fought through so many injuries to get to that point. Just a really tough one to swallow.
Had many great wins down the stretch, and great wins in the tournament, and have a lead in late in the second half of the national championship game. It always makes it harder to swallow, but it's factual, so you got to do it.
By the way, I failed to tell you, this is our 3-question segment. That's my job, and I fell down on that. It's presented by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina, reminding you to practice your 3 Ws, wear, wait, and wash, and we resolve to keep North Carolina healthy. Coach, I thought this was a great question. It comes from Mary Mercer, and Mary says, as fans, they always get excited over dunks, great passes, or whatever. She says she always sees you, though, getting up and making sure to tell everybody to get back and be ready to play on defense. Has there ever been a play that you got so excited about that you forgot to get up and tell somebody to get back, or you got lost for a moment just being impressed at something that one of your players did?
Never have.
Really?
Never have. I get impressed a great deal, but I don't get impressed so much that I'm not concerned about getting back on defense. I mean, one of the greatest plays ever in my mind during my career, and maybe in Carolina basketball, was we were playing Duke in the finals of the ACC, or semifinals of the ACC tournament, when they have Zion Williams, we have Kobe and those guys. And Zion makes this unbelievable dunk, and the crowd's going crazy, and Duke's going crazy, and we get it out of bounds and make 2 passes, and Cam Johnson dunks it on the other end. It cut off all the celebration, and that's what I don't want other teams to do to us. But we work hard, and in fact, in the Louisville game, we got back on track of getting some of those baskets inside 5 seconds of the shot clock, and we got several of those in the Louisville game. But I always want, if somebody scores on us, let's go back at them really hard. So if I think that's so important, we should make darn sure that we don't allow other people to do it to us.
Coach, one more here in our 3-question segment, again presented by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina. This one comes from Theo, and Theo wanted to know, at this point of the season, how much practice time is devoted to individual work versus team concepts when you're getting a little bit later in the year?
It's still, you do both. The first part of practice is always more individual work, and second part of practice is always more teamwork, and probably a little more teamwork this time of year. But just like last week, we had everybody shoot 300 free throws during the course of the week. Now, it didn't help us because we shot them poorly, but we had guys, every player on our team shot 300 free throws. That's individual work. The lowest percentage was 79%. And then we go out there and we shoot a bunch of bricks on Saturday. So we're doing it again this week. But I think we always consider trying to do things like that for an individual. But you got to be aware that teams start changing things this time of year too.
Good questions, all 3 of them. Our top 3 presented by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of North Carolina, reminding you to practice your 3 Ws. That's wear, wait, and wash, and resolve to keep North Carolina healthy. We're going to get to some more of your questions for the head coach of the Tar Heels. Plus, soon you're going to hear some of an interview with Tyler Hansbrough as well. All of that still to come here on The Roy Williams Show from Learfield IMG College. Welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Jones Angel, alongside the Hall of Fame head coach of the Tar Heels. That, of course, is Roy Williams. It's his show, Roy Williams Show. And, man, we have a good time talking Tar Heel hoops every week. Appreciate you joining us no matter how you are doing so today. We're going to get to some more questions for Coach. Then, after that, you're going to hear some of an interview Adam Lucas and I had an opportunity to have with Tyler Hansbrough, and then we'll preview the Marquette game. All that still coming up, but let's get to some more questions from you. And, Coach, this one comes from Tim. Tim Wise sent this one in. He said, at the beginning of the year, Caleb Love and R.J. Davis played together a fair amount. Then there was a stretch in the season when they didn't. Now they're playing together some, not all the time, but sometimes. And he wondered what growth you have seen from them playing together with the two youth on the court at the same time.
Well, they're not playing together very much right now. And he says together, you're talking about 1 or 2 minutes.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. Early in the season, we were waiting for Kerwin to develop more. We didn't have Anthony Harris. And so those guys, Kerwin's developed more. So we needed and depend on his outside shot. So that takes some minutes away from one of those two guys. And at the same time, getting Anthony back, he's so good defensively and energy level, that takes some time. We're still doing it, but I'm betting if you look, there's no more than 2 or 3 minutes at the most, because we've got to get those other guys some time as well. But I think it does give us some flexibility. At one point Saturday, I said I want some more ball handling because in case they start to press now. So we had both of them in there at the same time. But both those guys are freshmen who are getting a little bit better and a little bit better. But so is Kerwin Walton, and so is Anthony Harris, who is really still a freshman as well. In fact, if you look at it, he's played fewer games than Caleb and those guys because he only played 4 or maybe 5 last year, so they've got more experience than he does.
There's one point during the Louisville game when Carolina had 4 true freshmen and Anthony Harris out on the court, so 5 freshmen out there together. Coach mentioned Kerwin Walton. Evan Johnson sent in a pretty simple question as far as the language of it. What is it that makes Kerwin Walton such a great shooter?
Time. Nobody puts any more time than anybody on our team. He's the best shooter, and he works on it the hardest. He did that in high school. He worked on it harder than anybody else. His dad did a great job of teaching him the fundamentals. He's had people that have worked with him on the fundamentals of shot. He had a great high school coach, and Coach Novak up in Minneapolis. He couldn't get any better high school coaching than what he does for his club. He's won 8, 9, 10, 11. I can't even remember how many state championships. And they depended on Kerwin to make shots, not just shoot them.
Right.
And I think that the background he had, and we've given him a lot of freedom to be on the court. He was on the court for a couple after the game against Louisville. 2 hours later, he's back out on the court. So nobody works it. So nobody puts in the time. If you want to be a great shooter, that's the first thing. But his technique is a little unusual. He's got a little bit of a side spin on it, but when we got here, I kept looking at it and said, I'm not going to change it, and we let it go, and I think it's the right thing to do. But time and sweat, nobody puts any more than Kerwin does.
Kerwin Walton, by the way, named ACC Freshman of the Week this week. He becomes the 4th different Tar Heel to earn that award. Caleb Love has done it twice. R.J. Davis has won the award, as has Day'Ron Sharpe. Kerwin coming off a week where he was in double figures both games, including a career-high 19 in the victory over Louisville on Saturday. Coach Brian Garrison sent this one in, said Walker Kessler dove on a loose ball and called a timeout in the first half in the matchup against Louisville. Brian asked, do you prefer the timeout, or would you like to take a chance on letting the play develop when a player dives and is on a loose ball?
Especially in the first half, I don't mind them calling a timeout there because you lose that one if you don't use it anyway. So there's no question there's a difference between the first. And it's also the difference if a guy's laying on the floor and he's being attacked by 3 other people, timeout's good. But late in the game, we try to be a little more careful about what they're calling late in the game.
That was a heck of a play by what he had blocked the shot earlier in the possession. Then the ball was loose. He dove on the floor. It was really a great hustle from which he does all the time. It appears
it was great. He's played more the last 3 or 4 games. He's practiced better. He's made more shots. He's been better defensively. And the most important thing, he's been healthier the last couple of weeks.
12 minutes in each of the last 3 games for Walker Kessler for the Tar Heels, and his production certainly showing that as well as he continues to play very well. Let's do one more, Coach, then we'll take a break. This one comes from Jan and wanted to know about Puff Johnson. Is it potentially that he could seek a medical red shirt at this stage of the season? Has not played. I think it's in 7 or 8 games now due to an injury.
It makes no difference. Everybody gets a red shirt this year.
Yeah, that's right.
It makes no difference. But he's really been bothered by a bad jam toe, and I think we'll see him today on the court shooting on the side without a boot on, and I think that'll be the first time.
Good questions. We appreciate everybody sending them in. Again, it is asktheheels@gmail.com or via Twitter @JonesAngel. And, Coach, after this break, listeners to the show are going to hear some of an interview with Tyler Hansbrough. Of course, Carolina's all-time leading scorer, rebounder, the ACC's all-time leading scorer, one of the very best that's ever done it here in Chapel Hill. And fun to see Tyler back around the program a little bit right now as he works to try to get back over to China and continue his professional career.
Yeah, every day I go walk at lunch, almost every single day. And almost every single day, Tyler Hansbrough's in there before lunch working out, and I mean working. If any of our guys on our team worked as hard as he's doing at 35 years old, we'd be a lot better team.
How did Tyler Hansbrough get to be 35 years old, Coach?
Age, boy. Those years fly fast. Luke Bryan's got a great quote in one of his country songs, the days go slow, but the years go fast.
Isn't that the truth? So think you'll enjoy this. Adam and I had a bunch of fun talking to Tyler. You'll hear that after this break. Coach will rejoin us at the end of the show. We'll preview the upcoming matchup with Marquette. It's on the Roy Williams Show from Learfield, IMG College. Carolina back at home Wednesday night. Tar Heels will be hosting Marquette. And, Coach, another late add to the schedule as they look to play as many games as possible, up to 27. That's what you're allowed to play this year. And good to be able to add a quality opponent in Marquette.
Another team in the top 100, maybe even lower than that. I don't know for sure because I just know they're a good basketball team. They were looking for another game as well. We're attractive to them because they beat us. It's more than just one win.
Sure.
And at the same time, they're attractive to us because the same thing. They're a quality opponent, and we're trying to get better, trying to be playing our best basketball at the end of the year.
10-12 overall. I know a record they don't like that number in total, but some quality wins this year. They beat Wisconsin. They beat Creighton, so they a very capable team. And, of course, Steve Wojciechowski, the head coach.
And they beat Villanova, too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's some big-time wins for them. But Wojo, I remember watching him play in high school, loved his intensity. He gives that to his team. We've got to play well. We've got a couple of days of practice here, Monday and Tuesday, and hopefully be ready to play well on Wednesday night. And our guys know this is not a walkover. You've got to play. Mm-hmm. If you go out and think you're going to have it easy, Marquette's going to hit you right in the mouth. And, we were talking about Tyler Hansbrough, and you just did a little deal with him. That was what was so comfortable when Tyler played. He came to play every single night. And his teammates went along with him out of fear of him, or I don't know what, or he enthused them just as much. But that's the kind of attitude we've got to have Wednesday night.
Freshman big man Dawson Garcia leads the Golden Eagles in both points and rebounds. That game is at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night in at the Smith Center. It is televised on ESPN2. Radio-wise, we will have our coverage beginning at 6 o'clock that evening. Coach, great to see you as always. Appreciate your time and look forward to talking with you again this week.
Okay, Jones. Thank you very much.